you guess why certain people make it big and others stay stuck for years? 99% of people make this mistake. They have no idea how to relaunch their lives. And that's why we have today Scott Allan, and he is the CEO of Scott Allan Publishing, and he has books that were published in 16 languages and over 500,000 copies sold worldwide. And Scott Allan is on a mission to transform the human potential. And he's the best-selling author of Fail Big, Relaunch Your Life, and Do the Hard Things First. The first question I have is, what's the secret to your success? And is it related to relaunching your life?
Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu. Mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services.
Great question. I think it's related, but the secret, if it is a secret, it would be a combination of several things. So first of all, for people to relaunch their life or make their life great, another way I like to put it, is the first thing you have to be clear on what kind of life it is that you want to lead. So I think that's the number one mistake that a lot of people make. And, this is really how the journey begins, is we don't really know what we're doing in the beginning. So we make a lot of mistakes, and that's totally fine. Mistakes are part of the process. But eventually you have to be intentional with your actions, right? So something that, just to go back a few years when I started to, move forward on my journey. And I live in Japan, by the way, so I've been here for about 25 years. And before I came here, I had a vision, or I should say I built a vision to change the way that I was living my life at that time. And, I was spending a lot of time partying and just wasting time working in a job that I didn't really want to work in, just doing things, just kind of living life by default. So I decided that I wanted to, at the time, relaunch my life, although that's not what I was calling it. I wanted to transform the way that I was living and become something and someone greater than who I was at that time. And there was nothing wrong with the person I was at the time. It's just that I felt that I had potential to do something better with my life. And I believe like everybody has this potential. We just have to wake up to it. So I started to wake up to the fact that, hey, there must be more out there. And what I did is started doing a lot of visual meditation, which I highly recommend. I can walk through that process. And I did a lot of journaling, and I created a vision board for how I wanted to live my life, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. And I transformed my apartment at that time into this one big vision. So eventually I turned that vision into reality just by realizing, okay, I want to travel the world. I want to write books. I want to do this, this, and this. And I mapped out a plan of action for each of those things. And I started to take action on those things every day. So this was part of, it was part of my mission at the time, but I also felt, driven to succeed. And for me, like, success is really just showing up every day and being consistent in your actions, having clarity on what it is that you, not just what you want to do, but who you want to become. That's what it really boils down to. Because, you can take action towards something, and it could be the wrong things. It could be, it's like working in a job for 20 years and you wake up one day and realize, well, this isn't actually what I wanted to do with my life. So you need to know what it is that you want to do. You need to be clear on what it is you have to do in order to make that happen. And you have to show up every day to be consistent so that, you can get a result or an outcome and continue to refine the process. So that's part of the success formula for that. And just to expand on that a little bit, part of that, it has to do with, taking care of your health, taking care of your mindset, which means really, working on evolving your mindset And the third part of that is the spirituality part of that is just tapping into your greater self, which I use meditation for that, visual meditation. Um, I'm into Zen mastery, so I love to meditate and like thinking about, where do I want to be 1 year from now? Who do I want to be 1 year from now? And having that vision is what's going to be moving you forward towards, creating a greater life for yourself. So that is, Relaunch Your Life is one of the books that I wrote. It's been out for a little while now, but we're working on a second version of that just because it's time for a second version. And I might actually launch it as a second book, but we're still working on that. So
Thank you. I would say most people who want to relaunch their lives tend to be in this point where something is not working. And a lot of times there could be multiple things not working. It could be their relationships, it could be their health, it could be that they're overworked, they have no time for anything. It could be that they're just doing something that they dislike. But I think a common element is that a lot of times they don't know what they actually want because they've been doing the same old for 20 years, 30 years, whatever time frame. And then there's just this feeling of being unfulfilled with what you're doing. So what step should they take in order to relaunch their lives from the perspective of they don't have a clue what they actually want?
yeah, it's a great point. And I think that's where you have to begin with is just realizing that you do want something greater than what you have at the time. But I think the trap that we all fall into is that, we go from day to day with this feeling of lack all the time. Like, I don't have enough. I want more, but I don't know how to get it. I'm not enough. So we're always thinking in terms of, if only I had more, I'd be in a better position these days. So I think the first thing is, becoming comfortable with where you're at right now and realizing that, you are enough right now. Like you have enough to accomplish everything that you want to accomplish. So what happens with a lot of people when they don't know what they want, they just start to default towards, all the things that, like, I don't know, watching TV and nothing wrong with that. But, we tend to sit down and just kind of go through the motions. So what I do is, I got very clear on what it is that I wanted to do. And again, just let's start with a clean slate, assuming that you have no idea what you want, you're drifting through life, and you just have to stop and recognize that that is what you're doing and that's where you're at. And that is totally okay. Now, what you're going to do is, for me, like journaling is one of these things that really helps me. And it still does. I still journal to this day. Because what happens is we tend to live a lot inside our own heads. We can't see all the everything that's going on inside there. So we need to get things down on paper so that we can say, okay, this is what I want to accomplish in my life, and just write these things down. Like write everything down that you can. You don't have to sit there and journal for hours a day, but I spend the first 10 or 15 minutes of every day just doing like 2 or 3 pages of this. And then what I do is I take that vision and I transpose it into a vision board, and I start to think about these things really deeply. Because it's not something that, it could happen overnight. You could realize, like, this is what I want to accomplish. But if it doesn't, you have to just keep working on this thing. The other thing is, if you want to relaunch your life, you have to take a look at the people you're surrounding yourself with. And, this might be like family members, friends, everybody, and realizing that everybody's playing a part in your life. But this doesn't mean that they're going to be able to help you to transform or change your life or relaunch your life. So surrounding yourself with, the right people, or and by the way, when I say the right people, I mean people that are there to help you move forward. And the thing is like a lot of the people that, we have in our lives, they're there for a reason, but they may not be there to, they may be unable to help us in that sense. So I think the environment you put yourself into, and when I say the environment, I mean the books you read, the people you talk to, your coaches, mentors. So I had to go out there and find the people who were living the kind of life that I wanted to live. And that's one of the best things you can do. I'd say it's probably one of the top 3 things you can do, aside from just getting super clear on what you want by writing it down. Finding the people who have already been doing this, and whether it's like maybe you can't connect with them physically, like one-on-one, or have a conversation. But, if it's a lot of my mentors have programs, they have coaching, they have books and things like that, or podcast interviews. So I'm able to connect with their message that way. And probably the third thing is just being intentional with your actions every day. And this is hard to do because, we go from day to day, life goes by very fast, we get very busy. But this is why, you need to spend time. The night before I go to bed, I'll spend 10 or 15 minutes just writing down what my priorities are for the next day, which is leading me towards, achieving my goals, because, your goals are really important. And we need something to be moving forward towards those goals. And your actions come from the decisions that you make, like tomorrow I'm going to do this, this, and this. And maybe it's just one thing, which is fine, but you need to be clear on what that path is. So.
Thank you. For those entrepreneurs that want to relaunch their life after becoming bankrupt, or after working for 20 years in a job that hasn't led them too far financially, what do you recommend they do in order to relaunch better?
Okay, so yeah, for entrepreneurs that have become bankrupt, this has almost happened to me a couple of times. Didn't go completely bankrupt, but I was pretty close to it. Well, first of all, the first time that happened, I was actually working in a different business. It wasn't publishing, but it was something else. And I realized that I was actually building something that, like, for the long term, it wasn't really something that I wanted. I just got locked into building this business that I realized just wasn't for me, right? So I didn't want to go bankrupt, but I didn't want to continue working on that, working in that job. Now, I do have another friend who, like, I know there are like a lot of other entrepreneurs. A couple of them did go bankrupt, and for them, like, when I talked to them, they just said, well, going bankrupt was the best thing that ever happened to me. I know that's not the case with the most, who wants to go bankrupt? Pretty much nobody. But for a lot of people, it gave them that fresh start. And what happens in this case is that, you really have two choices. You can go back to your regular job, which a lot of people sometimes do, or you can start something new, from scratch. Because, well, here's the thing too. It's like, I used to think that for me to start a business, I needed to have a whole bunch of capital. I had to have tens of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars to start a business. There are some businesses where you need a lot of capital, yes. But I was able to start over again with just, $500 or $1,000. And nowadays we have even more tools available that, we can set up a business very quickly. So even if you do go bankrupt, first of all, or if you're close to it, I would take a look at the business that you're building and really ask yourself, like, if that is, like, is your heart into this? Is this, where your passion is? Because what I realized is that, we can be working on something really hard and, climbing the ladder, so to speak, and the ladder might be leaning against the wrong wall. So, that's the first thing I would look at, because if you're really into this thing, you're going to fail. Like, that's just the way it is. Yeah, you might go bankrupt, you might not, but you might still be failing in the work. One of the struggles that I've had for a long time is just working, doing all the work myself, not hiring anybody. And because I wasn't able to scale up or leverage, I was always just living like paycheck to paycheck, right? So when I realized that, I can use some of my money to buy back my time and move me further away from, just living paycheck to paycheck to, gaining more capital. And the more capital you get, the more people you can hire and build your business. I'm not saying everyone has to go out there and build an empire, but you do have to get to a point where you're not the one doing all the work. Because if you are, eventually, even if you're not financially bankrupt, you could become spiritually bankrupt or energy bankrupt, which is even worse, because once you burn out, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you're done, I think so. But yeah, I would take a look at the business that you're creating and really decide if this is the path that you're meant to take. And if it is, regardless whether, you're in the hole with your finances or not, other entrepreneurs that I've talked to that bounced back, they knew that there was a way forward, and the way that they were moving, like the path that they were on, just wasn't the path. They just had to create a different path for that same business. And that's just part of the process is, you have to fail big sometimes. So.
Thank you. For those entrepreneurs that have everything and have nothing. What I mean by that is that they have perhaps material assets. Maybe they have a supposedly great relationship. Maybe they have great company, but they still somehow feel a void inside. What do you suggest they do in order to relaunch their lives?
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's take an example. So an entrepreneur who has everything, and let's frame up what that actually is. To have everything, maybe they have the fancy cars, they have a big house, they have lots of money, and they appear successful on the outside, but inside they're emotionally bankrupt. Maybe they don't have many friends, etc. So, and maybe some people are happy living that way. And so, I can't say like that's good or bad, but I think that, when we actually look at, and again, it comes back to, for me, like I like to look at, how many years of my life do I have left and how do I want to spend it? Right. So I do believe like, it is better to have money than not to have it, as someone who's, um, been there before where I didn't have it and I wish I had more, and wishing doesn't bring you more. It just brings you more lack. Right. So I, I begin every day like this. It's not that I'm hoping I have a good day or a good week or a good year. It's, how do I want to create this day? How do I want to create this week or this year? So for a lot of entrepreneurs, like, you know, being successful in business is one thing, and having a lot of things is, I mean, whether that's good or not good, I can't say. I mean, I think it's better to, have things than not to have them. But if that's your only pursuit, is to get into the huge house and have the fancy car and all this, um, you have to question, like, once you get those things, where do you go from there? Because, I've had the fancy car and I've had bigger homes and all this. And what I realize is like, it comes down to that feeling of fulfillment. It's not just a feeling. It's like, that's the emotional grounding for me, is like, am I fulfilled with having all this stuff? And there was a period in my life where I was building one of my businesses where I was just spending a lot of money on stuff. Like, I just felt like as soon as I would get this money, I would go out and I would just blow it on all this stuff, because I felt like I had to accumulate all these things just to show everybody that, hey, look, I'm making it, I'm successful. But again, at the end of the day, I wasn't fulfilled because I wasn't actually doing it to build my dream. I was just doing it to, show the world that, I'm successful. I'm not saying everybody's out there doing that, but um, I wanted to have that feeling of fulfillment, like doing the work that was meaningful, and providing value and putting value out into the marketplace. So I think that a lot of people, if you're going to be working towards, these, I don't know, like a bigger life, it doesn't just mean having more things. And again, like, having things is great, but for me, I need to be able to take a lot of this energy, and energy, by the way, can be money as well. Money is energy, right? And, donating it or using it to provide more value, and helping people, really. Like, that's where I get a lot of the fulfillment. So I think that as entrepreneurs, like, we have to really question what our motives are, because my motives in the past were not always, the motives that, when I looked at it really deeply, I felt like I was motivated to do certain things, but it wasn't leading me towards a path of, I think, fulfillment or progress as well. Like, I want to make progress in my life, but that doesn't just mean progress towards, financial stability, although that is a big piece of it. It also, you have to maintain your health. You have to have healthy relationships so that you don't end up alone, assuming that you manage to become successful and you gain more wealth. You don't want to end up alone and just be the only person that's there to enjoy it. So.
Thank you. How can entrepreneurs overcome mental struggles and mental blocks? What I'm referring to is that if you failed big, then you can feel such a big failure that you're scared to take the next step. Mm-hmm. And if you failed, for example, to close certain big business deals that you could have done and you just couldn't do it in the end, you're also feeling like a big failure. So how do you get that courage to continue despite everything that happened? And let's say you had, 5 failed marriages and you still somehow believe in love, but you're you don't have the courage to do it anymore because you've just kind of lost a bit of that hope. So how can entrepreneurs kind of relaunch their lives and overcome those mental blocks?
Okay. Well, yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think that one of the books I wrote was Fail Big, and although it wasn't geared towards entrepreneurship, it was geared towards helping people to not just avoid failure. I think that's what a lot of us try to do is, whether it's subconsciously or unconsciously, I think we try to, play a smaller hand, right? And I do this all the time too. I still catch myself doing this because deep inside, I'm afraid of failing because I don't want to go back and start over again. But the thing is that, and this is really more of like the mental challenge is like, okay, how do I avoid failing in my business? How do I avoid failing in my relationships? And then we start to, become scared of moving forward, I think, right? So you can fail. You can fail actually by default by not doing anything, by not making a decision. You're failing by not showing up and working in your business, working in your relationships because they require a lot of work as well, and working in working towards your health and those things. If you avoid working on those things because you're afraid of failure, you're going to fail anyway. So it's inevitable. I mean, everything in life's moving towards everything's breaking down anyway. I mean, if we look at the state of the world, our lives and everything is always moving towards a state of breaking down. The question is, like how can you prolong that? And but what I mean by that is that you're going to fail at a lot of things in life. I mean, we've been failing at things like since we were born, really. But when you do, you have to ask yourself, like, is this something that's going to hold you back, or is it something that you're going to use as a learning curve to move forward? And that's really what it is. I mean, failure is just a stumbling block where you look at it and you can gather data from that, right? So, okay, I failed at this business, for example. What could I have done differently? And then you look at something that you could have done differently. Maybe you made a decision that you shouldn't have made. And what happens with most people, I think, is they go back and they latch onto the past. And this is something we all do. We regret making that decision. We regret something that we did in the relationship, whatever it might be. We hold on to that. And then when we get into the situation again, we repeat the same process a lot of the times because we're still going back and living in the past. And whenever that happens, we're recreating that same situation in the future. So first of all, give yourself a break, recognize that you're going to fail at something, and that is good. I actually invite failure, believe it or not, because I need to fail to see, and I want to fail fast and fail big, fail fast, because the faster I fail, the more I fail, the more, the faster I can get that, just get out of the way. I can look at what happened and go, okay, I should have done this instead of this. Next time I'm going to do this. And you just have to move forward that way. But again, what happens with what happens with a lot of people is that, they fail, they get stuck, they go back and they repeat the same process. So.
Thank you. How can entrepreneurs reduce the risk of failure and optimize the chances of success? Is there a blueprint they can follow in order to make sure that, okay, there's a possibility I could still fail, but what chances are there that maybe I could take a better step, a better path, a better way of kind of structuring everything so that ultimately my success is going to be more, there will be a higher likelihood that I will succeed.
Yeah. So one thing that I do is I communicate with my mentors, my coaches. I have a business coach that I work with. And before I had a business coach, I really just kept everything to myself. So whether I failed or I didn't fail or I was succeeding or wasn't succeeding didn't matter because I wasn't talking to anybody about it anyway. When I started to talk to my business coach about these things, that person was able to point out a better way for me to move forward. So in order for me to avoid failing less, or, then I could talk to somebody about that. And it wasn't always my business coach. Maybe it was some people on my team, right? But just being open about what I'm thinking, what I'm working towards, what is holding me back. I was able to not just, yes, reduce the risk of failing, but also just be very clear on, what the next steps are. Because again, I think clarity is the key. And a lot of people, they end up getting stuck in a rut and, they end up, not really moving forward because they don't openly communicate their thoughts and feelings to people because we feel like, okay, well, maybe I'm the CEO of the business, so I'm supposed to know everything. And we kind of get locked into that mindset. And we don't realize that until we actually stumble or fail or fall down that, I could have avoided this if only I had communicated this issue with somebody on my team or with my mentor. So I've been in that situation many times. And then every time, when I look back, is like, I could have avoided that failure. Like I said, I mean, I do believe failure is a good thing, but there are a lot of times where I could have actually avoided doing that thing if I just talk to somebody about it, because again, I can't see everything that's going on around inside my head. Not that I would want to, but I need to get those things out into the open so I can get the help and the insight from other people.
Thank you. A lot of business failures can be caused by the entrepreneur's ego and their desire to just be right. Is there anything they can do in order to relaunch their lives once they've realized that actually the cause of their failure was their ego?
Yeah. Well, a lot of entrepreneurs, what will happen is that, they get like they don't surround themselves with people, or they think anyway that like the people around them are not as smart as they are. Right. And this is a trap that I've seen people get into. And so it just kind of comes back to just what I was saying, like not communicating your thoughts and feelings to your team, for example, like you're the one making the big decisions. And, I've seen this happen with other people where they didn't want to be questioned about their decisions. So what happens with their team, or and this could be either in a big company or a small company, is that the team becomes timid and afraid to put their ideas out there and to challenge the CEO. So the CEO becomes isolated. They think, I'm the only one that can run this company. I'm the only one that can do these things. And eventually, like, yeah, that's ego in the way. And that's really a tough thing to overcome, though. I mean, it's like in a lot of cases, what happens is, yeah, sure, the companies actually will end up failing because the CEO just has to make one fatal mistake. And there's a lot of evidence out there to prove this. Is like, the CEO made one decision, whether it was a bad financial decision or a bad deal or whatever it is. And that could have been avoided if they'd had open communication with people on their team. And they didn't. And so, and again, like, the ego was in the way. And the ego is something where, like, what I realized, like a friend of mine who was in this situation, actually, his company did not go bankrupt or anything like that, but he was isolated from everybody else on his team. But one person on the team actually had the courage to come forward and say, everybody on the team is going to like quit the company. They're going to leave if you don't change this, this, and this. And a lot of people are afraid to take that step because of course they think they're going to get fired or something like that. But the CEO actually was open-minded, which I think is an important quality to have. And he was able to make the change, right? And they had a meeting, and they actually started to like talk through all the things that everybody was holding back on, and it just made it a very like a much better situation for not just for like internally, but externally for their customers as well. So yeah.
For those people that have failed in relationships, whether it's by choosing the wrong business partner, the wrong life partner, or simply dealing really poorly with their friendships, what can entrepreneurs do in order to relaunch their lives from the perspective of having more impactful, more effective relationships?
You have to work less, I think. Because what happens with a lot of business builders or empire builders, as I like to call it, is that we end up putting more energy and time into our business than our relationships with our children, with our spouses. And to me, putting time into those relationships, like that is the investment. Like I've always thought, like when I heard the word, investment, I always thought like not just financial investment, but time investment, energy investment into my business. And I put a lot of time into it, like a lot of business builders did. But you have to realize, like, for every hour or day that you're putting into your business, you could be taking that away from your relationships. And for me, like, without having the relationships, to me, like, that's the foundation. Because if you were to actually take my core relationships away with my family, with my friends, etc. I actually don't have a lot of things that I'm working towards. I realize like, oh, the reason I'm building this business, I know this is different for other people, but the reason I'm building this business, or the reason I can build this business and have the energy for it, is because I'm building it for the people that are in my life. Like by that, like they give me energy, right? So if I disregard that, ignore it, I'm just going to end up with nothing in the end, even if I succeed in business. So I need to invest in those relationships. And, maybe you really have to, I think you have to look at your relationships too, because if you feel like it's not something you want to invest in, there could be a deeper issue there. So.
Thank you. For those that want to relaunch their health, because let's say they've invested so much time into their business that they became very ill, what do you suggest?
Well, here's the thing. For me, health is number one. Like that is the number one thing. And that's something that I do every day. Like I'm very intentional with exercising, not every day, but my intention is to do it at least 5 days a week. So what I do like first thing in the morning is I go for a 15-20 minute walk. I need to get out of the house and do that. That's going to make your day so much better. I go to the gym at least 4 times a week. And recently I joined like a boxing club and doing things like this. I'm not looking to become a Golden Gloves champion or anything like that, but just for the exercise, that just gives me so much energy back. And I'll usually do that maybe at the end of the day or maybe in the morning. But I put that intentionally into my calendar because if I don't, I'm going to fill up that time with sitting at the computer more and doing more work and those things. It feels great to work. I love doing like a lot of business builders. I love working, I think. But you need to be intentional with your health because if your health goes, like you have nothing else anyway, right? You can't show up to work. You can't support your community. You can't add value. So it does have to be the number one thing. It's not just exercising, by the way. There's a period where I was just like eating crap food and, not taking care of myself that way. So I had to change my diet. I started to exercise probably 3 times as much as I was before. And taking care of your mental and spiritual health as well. I'll spend half an hour a day at least doing, I call it like a visual meditation where I'm actually sitting down and, thinking about the future, and just filling my mind with positive affirmations and things like that. So you really need to focus on those 3 pillars right there, like your physical health, which includes eating well and, meditation. And then the third part of with the health is, yes, healthy relationships as well. Surrounding yourself again, like I mentioned, with the people that are, they're not just giving you energy, you're giving it back. So.
Wow, I love that. Fascinating. Please tell us where entrepreneurs can find you.
Sure thing. They can find me at scottallanbooks.com, where you have all of our products set up on there. And they can also go to scottallanpublishing.com, or they can just do a quick Google search. I'm sure they can find, I've got lots of interviews on there and other books. So we've got about, I've been publishing for about a decade. So we've got about 40 plus books in the marketplace. So Relaunch Your Life is one of them, and they can pick that up at Scott Allan Books.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.